The second day of NFL free agency is winding to a close, and who is still available? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about on today's episode of NFL Daily. All of the top free agents still left after day 2 of the free agency period. Now, before we get into that list, here's what I want you to do. Shout out your favorite team. I want as many replies to this pinned comment, of which I'm making this. I want to see as many teams as possible, because without you guys driving the ship here at Chat Sports, we would have nobody to talk to. So make sure that you put your favorite team in the comment section below. Let's start with our first free agent still available, Mr. Stefon Diggs. Now, it should be noted, this is in no particular order, right? I'm not ranking these from 1 to whatever. We have about 20 guys still to cover yet, but Stefon Diggs comes in at our first free agent that is still available. And one thing to note about Stefon Diggs is after that gruesome ACL tear that he had this year, his market is kind of quiet. Now, I do believe that there are some redeeming qualities to Stefon Diggs, right? Obviously, he's about 2 years removed from being one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. So don't let this whole move to the Texans fool you and the ACL tear. Stefon Diggs is still very, very productive. It just so happens that he was paired up with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. So they had that bevy, that trio of wide receivers that were doing some major damage. Now, what teams could be in the possibility in the running for Stefon Diggs? It's hard to say, but I do know that a team that needs a desperate wide receiver too would probably be a great fit for Stefon Diggs. So maybe a team like the Seahawks, possibly. I know they just signed Sam Darnold to that 3-year deal. So Stefon Diggs, still a very notable free agent. But I want to ask you something here very quickly. Where do you think Stefon Diggs is going to play in 2025? Again, put that down in the comment section below. I'm going to go and throw my hat in the ring and say Seattle on this one, but that's just me. You put yours there as well. Now, coming in second, Mr. Russell Wilson, a guy who still has not found a team yet. Obviously, his counterpart and his backup, Justin Fields, signed with the New York Jets. Now, Russell Wilson came in to replace Fields after 5 games and played 11 for the Pittsburgh Steelers and led them to a playoff berth. He actually performed fairly decent in Pittsburgh this year, I thought. Way better than he was playing in Denver and that horrendous contract that they had him up. So if you take a look at his last 4 years, it's been pretty decent. Now, obviously, that 2022 year was, 2023 got better, and then obviously last year under Mike Tomlin performed pretty well. QBR doesn't really speak volumes to that, but honestly, I thought we saw a much improved Russell Wilson. Now, we're never going to get the Seattle version of Russ. It's just not going to happen. That whole let Russ cook thing, it's just not a thing. Now, it's not as bad as the Broncos country, let's ride Russ. But I think a nice home for Russell Wilson will either be with the Steelers once again or with the New York Giants. They're desperate for a quarterback. Russell continually wants to play. Could you sign him at a vet minimum deal? It's possible. Maybe you draft a quarterback if you're the Giants and then let him be groomed by Russell Wilson. It's a whole possibility. Now, speaking of another New York quarterback, how about this guy right here that still has yet to find a team? Thought he was going to show up on McAfee today. Ultimately was not the case. Aaron Rodgers. To say that his time with the Jets was kind of a dumpster fire would be putting it mildly. Rodgers obviously only played 4 snaps in that 2023 season and then went down with the Achilles tear. But last year, the numbers don't do it necessarily justice. Rodgers on paper looked pretty good, but the Jets were a laughing stock, probably the laughing stock of the NFL. Now, again, Rodgers, 41 years old, not the same quarterback that he once was when he played for Green Bay. I don't think that Rodgers necessarily has a future, that much longer in the NFL, but on a 1-year deal to mentor a young quarterback, if he's up to it, could be another possibility. But you might be asking yourself, well, where would Rodgers want to play after this? I mean, the Jets said they don't want him, and they're desperate for a quarterback. They just went out and signed Justin Fields. So to me, I look at this and I go, well, Is Rodgers going to go to a quarterback-needy team, or is he going to go to the best possible situation? Or maybe is it kind of a little bit of both? Either way, I think these are the three best landing spots for Aaron Rodgers. The Giants, the Steelers, and could he follow in the path of Brett Favre and go to the Minnesota Vikings? There have been rumors surrounding this. Now, again, I don't think that's a possibility. I don't see him. I think he's very aware of the Brett Favre narrative, and I think he's going to try and stay away from that as far as possible. Now, we've got some more free agents to dive into, but before we do that, how about a thank you to our sponsor at Fanatics? I'm a big hat guy. You can see I'm wearing my Chat Sports hat right now. So I know when I see a good hat, and Fanatics has the best deals on all of your favorite hats, but not just hats. It's jerseys, it's jerseys, it's all the best gear surrounding your favorite NFL team is over at Fanatics. So I'm going to take this link right here and put it in the comments and the description of today's video. Make sure that you click on it if you want to start shopping at Fanatics today. And we do have some breaking news for our next NFL free agent who isn't necessarily a free agent anymore. DeAndre Hopkins is signing with the Baltimore Ravens. We will have those contract details later on, but it's official at the time of this recording. DeAndre Hopkins is going to play for the Baltimore Ravens, and that might be a great fit for him. He's going from one elite quarterback to another one in Lamar Jackson. So if you take a look at the last 4 years that DeAndre Hopkins has put in, it's been pretty good, right? He hovers right around that 700-yard mark, and I think that with another really solid quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who, you know, admittingly likes to take off and run sometimes, so playing receiver might not be the easiest thing in Baltimore, but Lamar is one of the best in the league. So having another weapon like DeAndre Hopkins is going to be great for the Baltimore Ravens. So, and, you know, look at his comparisons to last year when he played with the Titans and when he played with the Chiefs. It's clear that with a good quarterback, DeAndre Hopkins can still give you productivity. So big shout out to you, Mr. DeAndre Hopkins. Welcome to the Baltimore Ravens. On to the next guy, Evan Engram, who I'm going to be straight up with you. He met with the Broncos the other day, and I think that is the perfect fit for him. They are in desperate need of a tight end, and although this draft class is very, very deep at tight end, Evan Engram is a for sure thing. Now, he's not a top 5 tight end in the league, but look at that 2023 year. That should give you a whole lot of promise. He doesn't find the end zone nearly as much as I'd like. He's more of a middle-of-the-field tight end rather than a red zone threat. But Evan Engram is a very, very good player. And last year, the Jaguars, dumpster fire. I don't know why. I don't know what happened with Trevor Lawrence's head. Maybe it was a combination of the Doug Peterson, coaching and all the coaches there that failed to keep this talented roster afloat. It's clear, though, that Evan Engram, when surrounded by a good quarterback and the right coaching, can be a very, very solid tight end number 1 for you. All right, this guy coming up next, Joey Bosa. The rumors around him are thick, especially going to the San Francisco 49ers to team up with his brother, Nick. Makes so much sense that it rhymes. But Joey Bosa has not been the same player. Again, same kind of trend that you're going to be seeing. A lot of these players are much older, once really, really talented, still talented, but once really productive and have kind of dropped off a cliff a little bit. And Joey Bosa, I was hearing from one of the other hosts here at Chat Sports, who they were saying that he's only played around 30% of the total snaps in the last 3 seasons, whether that be to injury or whatever the other reason may be. Despite all of that, Joey Bosa is not the same player. 14 games played, only 22 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and only 5 sacks. Now, he was going up with Khalil Mack in Los Angeles, and Khalil Mack, by the way, re-signed with the Chargers. But Joey Bosa could be a solid pass rusher, too. He's no longer the primary option, right? He's now no longer like Brother Nick, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, any of those guys. Although at one point, we were very, very high on Joey Bosa, so it's going to be interesting to see where he teams up. I think maybe finding him in San Francisco makes the most sense, although I don't really see it happening. Mekhi Becton, he's our next player, an offensive tackle, and what a behemoth of a human being. And a lot of people were writing him off as a potential bust after he got drafted. And then he goes over to the Eagles, and of course, just like any good organization, they turn him around. His overall grade last year was really, really solid. Now, we don't want to overhype him too much, but from where he was to what he did last season, it is a night and day difference. And the Eagles just have a knack of making offensive lines great, don't they? I mean, two things in life are true. 3, death, taxes, and the Eagles having a good offensive line. So Mekhi Becton will obviously have some market, especially because of the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Now, I'm going to ask you just here in a second, because this was one of the little debate topics that we were having in the office today as we were sitting around waiting for more news to drop. Do you think that the Eagles will repeat as Super Bowl champs? I'm going to say, if this is the statement, I'm going to say F. Do you know how hard it is to win back-to-backs? The Chiefs made it look, ridiculously easy to get back to 3 in a row, but they couldn't three-peat. It's so hard to win Super Bowls in this league. We all know this to be true. So I'm going to say F for false. Up to our next guy, Rico Dowdle, running back for the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm going to be totally transparent with you. Rico Dowdle is probably one of the high-end running back 2s for a team. I don't think he should be a running back 1. I know he had over 1,000 yards this last season, but truth be told, there's a reason everybody was talking about how bad the Cowboys' running game was. It's just the truth. So, and look, 2023, only 300 yards. Now, if you were to add him as a running back 2, like I said, that's an entirely different conversation. So adding, sitting somewhere behind a guy like Derrick Henry, a guy like Saquon Barkley, I feel like that would be the best fit for Rico Dowdle. Maybe a team that is desperate for a running back. The Commanders could use somebody. The Broncos could use somebody. So Rico going to a team that is, probably the best fit for him would be a running back 2, but any team that is in desperate need for a running back 1 would probably overpay for him. Speaking of running backs, J.K. Dobbins. Najee Harris is now a Los Angeles Charger, which means J.K. is outski. But J.K. before the injury last season was playing really, really good football. I mean, he only played in 13 games this year and had almost 1,000 yards rushing, almost 5 yards a carry. He also made a little bit happen in the receiving game, 9 total touchdowns, averaging almost 1 touchdown a game. So look, J.K. Dobbins is a running back 1, albeit on the lower end of the running back 1s. But I really, really like what I saw from J.K. Dobbins last year. And if he can stay healthy, he is a very, very solid option for a lot of teams. That's the biggest concern around him is, can he stay healthy? He's always getting injured. So J.K. Dobbins, I'm trying to think of a team that could, buy for him. The Bears, they could always use somebody like him, right? A little power back to pair with DeAndre Swift, although don't let it be said that they're targeting Ashton Genty. I'm just throwing that out there. Speaking of the Chicago Bears, though, Keenan Allen, he's our next free agent target here. And Keenan, getting older, almost 33 years old, slight drop-off from what he had the previous year in Los Angeles, but still a very good year. I mean, with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze in Chicago, he still managed to get 70 receptions, over 700 yards, and find the end zone 7 times, which is the exact same amount that he had his last year with the Chargers. I think Keenan Allen has still got some great stuff left in him. I personally think the best spot to go back to is the Chicago Bears. He's going to be working with Ben Johnson. Caleb Williams obviously finds comfort in him. I think that would be the best spot for him, but he could always join a team that is, again, needy for a really good route runner. You're not going to sign Keenan Allen to be a vertical threat. And that's probably one of the reasons that he didn't do nearly as well as he would have, because Shane Waldron has no idea how to call plays and was using him on vertical routes. So back to Chicago would be my guess for Keenan Allen, but again, any team that could use a good route runner would be in some serious buying for his services. Another defensive player here, Mr. Za'Darius Smith, who was brought into the Lions after that gruesome Aiden Hutchinson injury. I don't know if you guys saw that. His leg was just kind of dangling there. Ooh, it just kind of makes me shudder as I think about it. But honestly, again, sticking with the Lions would probably make the most sense. Aiden Hutchinson comes back, and if you have Za'Darius Smith as your pass rusher too, oh, you are cooking. You are in business. He had 9 sacks last season. And that, again, primary, right? He comes in for an injured Aiden Hutchinson, but he spent the first 9 games with Cleveland, and he was obviously out of there, and then went to the Lions, and I think that's where he should remain. So Za'Darius Smith, again, one of those players that's kind of bounced around the NFC North. I liked what I saw from him last year. He would be an excellent pass rusher too, probably one of the best in the league, but if you made him your pass rusher one, your primary pass rusher, I don't think anybody would complain about it either way. Okay, some other notable free agents. I know that list was extensively long, and we could go on and on and on talking about all these other players. So I thought I would just rattle down some names for you. Cam Robinson, tackle for the Vikings. Teven Jenkins, one of the guards for the Bears. Rasul Douglas, cornerback for the Bills. Calais Campbell, DeMarcus Lawrence. Mike Williams, a wide receiver for the Steelers. Azeez Ojulari and Asante Samuel are all still on the board, ready to call the next team home. And here's what I want to know from you. If there is a free agent that you want your team to sign, let me know who it is. Was it somebody that I talked about in this video, or is it somebody that I neglected to mention? And feel free to tell me either way. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's episode of NFL Daily. Let's keep on rolling with some NFL free agency action. Until tomorrow, we will see you next time. I'm Moose. Be cool.